everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Lottie and this is my spoilery vlog for Glint by Raven Kennedy. So yes, as the title says, this is the spoiler vlog for Glint, the second book in the Plated Prisoner series. So if you have clicked on this video and you have not read this series or this book yet, please do click away, go and read the book and come back to hear all my thoughts, because I will be going into full depth with spoilers, my theories about what's going to happen, etc. So this is my first time reading the series and I really loved Guild. There will be a link in the cards and in the description as well to that vlog if you would like to check that out first to see my thoughts and what I think might happen in this book. So I have already started Glint. I started it today while I was commuting to and from work and on my lunch break, and so I'm now on page 72, which is the start of chapter 9, and already I have feelings. So I'm already really into it. I have literally started this book immediately after finishing Guild. I did read a graphic novel in between, that was the Tea Dragon Society, so I have read that in between as a little bit of a gap, but that is literally like 70 pages, so I'm pretty much like back to back with these books. Thoughts on the first 70 pages. We open with a chapter from Queen Melina, who is now on her own in Sixth Kingdom, and I feel like she is going to take opportunity of being away from Midas so that she will kind of try and reclaim what is hers. Obviously she was the actual member of the royal family of Six, and she, in this chapter, she's just talking about like how she remembers the palace before everything became gold, and she's like, yeah, it's pretty now, but it has no personal touch or any of its history from the generations of her family that have ruled in Sixth. So I feel like Queen Melina could be a very important side character with a very important side plot to this series. I would be very interested to see kind of how she is going to take over Sixth, if that's her plan. Obviously there is the issue of the fact that she can't bear children, which is really unfortunate. So she can't carry on her family's bloodline, she can't carry on Midas's rule. We'll be interested to see what she does with that. And then we switch back to Auron for the majority of the book, I'm guessing, because all of the chapters since have been from Auron's perspective. So Auron is obviously at the moment the prisoner of the guard people for King Rot, and specifically she is under the watchful eye of Commander Rip, and already I feel like, yeah, Commander Rip has to be the actual love interest. I suspected it at first at the end of Guild, but I definitely now feel like, yes, he's got to be the actual love interest. I've tried to avoid spoilers for this series as much as possible, and I have seen a few bits of artwork and I have seen things with references to Goldfinch, which is what Rip is calling Auron. So yeah, Auron herself, she very clearly does not trust anybody. She has no reason to trust Rip or any of the other people in his, like, I don't even know what to call it, the people, you know, the army, I guess. She has no reason to trust any of them, and it's so obvious how distrustful she is. Like, I already can see, like, they have no intention to cause her any harm, to cause the other saddles any harm. They have no intention to do that. They clearly don't like her and they don't particularly respect her. But I feel like their lack of respect is not because of who she is. It's not because she is the king's favoured. It's because she seems to love and enjoy being his prisoner and being his captive. And it's because she very obviously has a bad case of Stockholm syndrome. But also, the last chapter I just read was a flashback to something that happened, I'm guessing, when Midas first rescued Auron before he became king, and at this point she has been gold touched, which kind of surprises me. I mean, I would like to learn more about that history and what exactly happened between Oren and Midas and why he chose her. And I feel like it's probably because she is more than we think. She must have some sort of magical ability. She's obviously got her ribbons, but I feel like she is something more than that. It was first hinted at by Commander Rip in Guild when he said, "I know what you are," and there must be a reason behind why Midas has chosen to gold touch Oren and to also keep her his captive for so long, and that he has like gaslighted her into thinking that the whole world is out to get her, and he has solidified that by gold touching her, because in that flashback scene she is attacked by some random townspeople who steal her gold clothes, who cut her hair, and it's because she's made of gold, which, you know, fair enough to them. I can see why they would do it. They probably don't see her as a person and they're probably starving and need the money, but Midas makes it out like the whole world is going to treat her like that and he's the only one who cares about her. And it's somewhat true, but also like he's very clearly doing it to isolate her, and it's a massive abuse tactic. Yeah, it's awful. And clearly before she even met Midas, Oren has been through something which I believe is going to be something related to being sexually assaulted, or possibly very nearly sexually assaulted if it didn't actually like physically happen. It's not something she seems to want to discuss with Midas. She says she's glad that he doesn't kind of pry her for it, but there was a flashback. It's when Oren is being treated by the mender, which I will talk about in a minute, but she has a little bit of a memory that says, "Just lie down on the pallet, girl, this will be quick," which is obviously sort of a reference to possibly being raped, which must have happened a very long time ago, but it's something that she's kind of repressed. So Oren has very clearly got a very tragic past and it's going to be interesting to see her kind of heal from that trauma and heal from the way that she has been abused and gaslighted by Midas, so that she can truly shine and be herself. And another thing about not trusting people and having that suspicion is to do with the mender. Like, obviously at first she doesn't realise who he is and what he's there to do. And he's obviously just there because he's like, well, I'm just here to make sure you're okay, to check you over, here, sort your injuries out. And she has a huge bruise on her torso. Rip did walk in on her having a wash, saw her completely naked. I respect him so much for just walking straight out and going straight and getting a mender, because he obviously saw that bruise on her torso. And Miss Mender comes and it's like, "What about what was on your torso?" And she's like, "I do not want you." That's fine, it's fine. She's basically like, "I do not want this person to look at me with no clothes on, to touch me." So that very obviously says to me as well that she has some sort of assault, abuse type thing in her past as well, which is really sad. It makes me really, really sad for Oren. Like, this poor woman. I'm already really growing to Commander Rip. Oren clearly doesn't like him, obviously, but the way he is with her, it's the snark between them I absolutely love. He probably doesn't care for her just yet, but just the fact that he went and got a mender and didn't do anything, like she thought that Rip was going to assault her. And she has every reason to believe that because of what happened with the pirates, because of probably what Midas has said to her, because of her role as well of being the king's favoured, of being a royal saddle, of being gold touched, everybody being obsessed with her golden cunt. Like, she has every reason to believe that that's what Rip was going to do with her, that's what he wanted to do with her. And she's obviously surprised when that doesn't happen. So, yeah. I'm just very interested to see how their relationship's going to develop. I love the fact that they're sharing a tent and she's just like, what the hell? And he wants to keep an eye on her for, you know, his very valid reasons, because, you know, at the end of the day, she is his prisoner right now. He wants to find out information about Midas, but I feel like it's probably more than that. I don't know. But I'm very interested to see further developments with the plot and the world building. I'm not sure about my theory of the Seven Kingdoms representing the different deadly sins. Like, I feel like Midas could be either wrath or greed very, very easily, but the others, obviously with Sixth Kingdom, I still think that could have represented gluttony, but the others, from what we've very briefly been told about all these different kingdoms, because there is that Midas chapter at the end of Guild, he does say like, I've been to these different kingdoms and this one is this and this one is that. It's very difficult to kind of think, okay, could these represent any of the other sins? So I don't know if that is going to play any part in this series at all. It probably isn't, but I just thought it'd be very interesting if the fact that there was these 7 kingdoms represented the 7 deadly sins in some way or another. But not all of the kings and leaders of these kingdoms can be evil, I suppose. It just so happens that Midas is. It just so happens that the king of Fifth was. I'm not sure about Fourth though. I feel like Fourth has got itself a reputation to keep the other kingdoms at bay, to keep them in fear of King Rot, but I feel like he's actually probably going to be like a cinnamon roll. So yeah, that's enough for this update. I think that was a lot for me to talk about with just the first 70 pages of this book, but yeah, I feel so much for Oren. Like, I really just hope she can heal from whatever happened in her past, because it's clearly something pretty big. But I'm also very intrigued to find out, like, what is she, because I don't think she's just a human with a little bit of magic to have sprouted these ribbons that she can control. I feel like she's definitely more than that. So yeah, but I'm so excited to carry on reading this. I'm literally gonna start reading now after I've done this update, because I just want to find out what happens next. It looks like I have not moved since the last update. It's because I'm filming this pretty much 24 hours later. It's the following day. I'm pretty much just doing daily updates at this point, because it's the middle of the week, or the beginning of the week even. I'm at work. I don't want to record an update while I'm at work, obviously, but I'm doing a lot of my reading while I'm commuting and on my lunch break. So look how much I've read since the last time I spoke to you. I've read 90 pages today, and I read 70 pages, 80 pages last night after I updated you guys. So I've read a lot since the last update. I'm now on page 243, or the beginning of chapter 24, and despite the fact of how much I've read, I feel like not a lot has actually happened in the book. It's quite slow going, but I'm still very much enjoying it. With the first book, there was a few changes of location, and I feel like that was kind of told in 3 distinct acts, where it was like the first one is in Sixth Kingdom, the second one was when they were travelling, the third was when they were with the pirates, whereas this one has pretty much only been in Fourth Army's camp. And we've had a few chapters from Queen Melina's perspective as well, which have been very interesting. She is doing what I thought she was doing, where she's trying to solidify her position on the throne and essentially just take over Sixth Kingdom and take back what is her right as the heir, despite the fact that she doesn't possess magical abilities. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Queen Melina. We've also had a few flashback scenes from Oren's perspective, when Oren and Midas first went to live at the palace, when Midas had just married Melina, and it was quite obvious that Melina did not like Oren. She has complete reason to. She probably does not understand Midas's obsession with her, the reason why he keeps her around, or why he gold touched her. Like, she solidifies Oren's position in the palace as she is literally like Midas's pet. She does not see her as a person, not even as a saddle. And Melina probably still doesn't even like the idea of royal saddles, because why would you know? But theirs is obviously a marriage of tactics. It's a marriage because she needed to, if she wanted to stay queen, then she needed to marry someone who has magical powers. So it's not like they love each other, and there was never any of that in the first place. But it's the way that Melina rubbed it in Oren's face that like Midas was going to bed her that evening, and that, like, you know, that's his duty to her, and at the end of the day, like, Oren is nothing basically. So it's very clear the kind of relationship that they had at the very start. In terms of what is happening in the present day with Oren, she has been to visit the other saddles, sort of get an idea of if they're okay. Where I left off when I went to bed last night, she had asked Rissa if she had told the other saddles about what she witnessed of Oren turning the Pirate King into gold. Rissa hasn't told anyone yet, and she's threatening Oren because she wants to buy her freedom, which is fair enough, but the way she's going about it with Oren is obviously she doesn't care about what happens to Oren, and all she cares about is her own freedom, which is, you know, fair enough. But yeah, what she's asking of Oren is to basically buy her freedom by turning things to gold for her, and Oren is like, I can't do that. I can't just do that. So it does make me wonder that there's been lots of questions about Oren and her ability. Rissa asked some good questions about, like, well, does Midas know when you use the power? Can you does it deplete him at all? Like, can he tell? It's very interesting, and I would like to find out more, but at the moment there is just a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And it's the same with what Commander Rip knows about Oren. He knows what she is, but what is she? And Oren is very reluctant to kind of reveal that to the reader. I like it. It's definitely keeping my intrigue very, very high. I just really want to know what she is, as well as find out what's going to happen next in the plot. And Oren is very reluctant to reveal to the reader what she is, and it must have something to do with her past. There's been a few flashback scenes from when she was a little girl, and it was awful how she had to, like, sleep on the streets sometimes because the guy who essentially housed her and the other kids was just like, if you haven't made enough money today, you have to sleep outside. It's just awful. She was talking about how she used to have to eat garbage, no wonder she was sick all the time, and it was just like so sad. She's had the worst tragic backstory ever. She was an orphan, she lived on the streets, she's probably been raped or assaulted in some way. It's awful for her. I feel so bad for her, and it's clearly all building up to why she's so dependent on Midas and why she thinks she cares for Midas so much, because he was the only person who showed her any semblance of kindness, and obviously that's not actually the case here. He gaslighted her, he emotionally abused her and isolated her, and what Rip is saying to her and the way Rip talks to her, treats her, it's like he's trying to get her to wake up and see what is actually happening and what actually happened to her. Like, Rip almost resents her because she liked being captive. Already I can tell that he's trying to help her, even though he has no reason to. I mean, it's probably partially a tactic because they do want to find out things about Midas. At the end of the day, they are the enemy army. But they're also kind to her in a way where, like, they don't treat her like a prisoner. They're almost kind to her. I really, really love the relationship she's got with the cook, Keg. I absolutely love him. He's so kind. Like, he's just so funny and friendly, and I absolutely love him. And he's like, I better see you at breakfast tomorrow morning. Like, I love him so much. But yeah, just the way that Rip is with Oren, he's definitely trying to get her to come to her senses. I think it's beyond just trying to get her to betray Midas. I feel like, I mean, it could be because they want to just find out about Midas and they want her to betray him and stuff, but I do feel like the heart of it is trying to get her to see, like, what Midas has done to her more than anything. But yeah, other than like what I've just talked to you guys about, there's not actually that much as actually happened. She did kind of reveal to Rip that she can use her ribbons, that she can control them. When she was sick, the mender was trying to just sort of treat her while she was sleeping, and she startled awake and pushed him with her ribbons all the way across the tent, and Rip was like, damn. So I'm just very interested to know what Oren is. But I'm about halfway now. I have plenty to go. The rate that I'm reading this though, I feel like I'm definitely going to finish it tomorrow. It's crazy. I mean, I worked out today. If I read the same amount this evening as I did last night, I would be on like page 410-ish. And there's only like 460 pages in the whole book, if that. So I definitely am like, if I keep at the pace I'm going, I definitely can finish it tomorrow, which I'm very, very excited to do. I'm absolutely loving this. I kind of wish that I could just carry on and read Gleam and then Glow next immediately. It's gonna suck having to wait to read Gleam, but I have at this point done the roles for my May and June TBR scrolls, and I think I can fit Gleam onto that TBR, so I should definitely be reading Gleam soon once I've finished this one. I don't obviously know when I'm going to get to Glow, but even if I do read all four very, very quickly, I'm still going to have to wait for the last book until December. and that is a very, very long way away right now. So I don't want to have to wait to finish the series, but I also just really want to keep reading it because I'm really, really enjoying it. But if I read it too quickly, then the wait will be even longer. So I'm trying to savor it, but I'm just really loving it. Already. Yeah, once again on my bed. I feel like every vlog update has been in this same place, but it's literally just because this is where I do my updates now. This is just the vlog. This has sort of been like more of a running commentary of my thoughts while I'm reading this rather than a vlog, but I don't care. So it's been a few days since I've done an update. It's also mainly because I haven't done a lot of reading. I didn't finish the book when I thought I was going to finish it. It's Friday, but I definitely think I'm going to finish it tonight because I'm on page 420, which is in the middle of a chapter. And there has been a lot of developments since I last gave you an update. So I think the last time I did any filming was when I found out Auron is actually Fae, which was a very interesting development because obviously that explains a lot about her abilities and kind of solidifies a little bit of where she's come from. I'm still very interested to know how she got from Anwin to Second Kingdom, I think is where she said she met Midas, and then she and Midas went together to Sixth Kingdom. So yeah, it was a very interesting development, and obviously Rip was trying to kind of get her to embrace the fact that she's Fae and not hide it and start to really use her strength, use her abilities. And yeah, it was just a very interesting development, and I would really like to know more about why she kind of conceals this part of herself. It's obviously to do with a safety thing, survival. Obviously we know she spent a lot of time on the streets before she met Midas, so I'm very interested to know like what happened between her leaving Anwin and coming to Auria. I'm trying to remember a sequence of events that's happened up to the point where I am now in the book. So where I am now, she is now in Fifth Kingdom. The army did eventually reach Fifth Kingdom. King Ravenger has appeared and used Auron as a bargaining chip for Midas, but only under Midas's terms. So Midas said, I will meet with and discuss things with Ravenger if they hand over Auron, which they did very, very quickly. So I'm going to talk about this bit first just because it's freshest in my mind with what's happened between Midas and Auron. And obviously I'm in the middle of a scene, but Auron has just come to the realization of exactly her confinement, I guess, with Midas, because he has this iron cage in Fifth Kingdom and he's told her that she needs to be in it to keep her safe while he goes to discuss things with Ravenger. And Auron has kind of really just come to her senses in the way he's treated her, and she's just said, he dragged me into a foreign frozen kingdom, he married a cold queen who hated me, he fucked saddles in front of me, he made me into a spectacle, he kept me in that cage day in and day out, he used me. So she's finally realised, like, he does not care about her. He sees her only as a possession, as a shiny thing to show off to other kingdoms. She's just a symbol, she's a status. And she's finally come to her senses, but it's too late because Rip did give her the opportunity to say, actually, I want to stay with you. And he said, like, don't worry about the logistics of it. Don't worry about the army. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about Ravenger. Do you want to stay here? Do you want to go back to Midas? And she was still true to Midas. And it's so obvious that this is kind of like symbolism for people who are in abusive relationships, because this is exactly what's going on between Midas and Auron. He controls her, he gaslights her, he emotionally abuses her, he makes her feel like he's the only person in the world who cares about her, tricks her into thinking that he's keeping her safe, and he's not. He's trapped her, he's imprisoned her, he uses her to give himself symbol and status. He does not care about her. It's really sad that it's taken this long for Auron to really realise, like, this is what's happened, but I'm glad that she's finally realised and she's woken up and she's acknowledged that this is what's happening. And I'm guessing that book 3 is going to focus a lot on her possibly becoming free. Obviously I've still got maybe 40 pages to go until the end of the book, so we will see, but I don't see her getting away from Midas in those 40 odd pages. I feel like she's still going to be in Fifth Kingdom until the start of the next book, and then maybe we will see her reunite with Rip. Now, I've been aching to talk about the kiss. I read the kiss scene while I was waiting for the bus a couple of days ago, and I really wanted to talk about this at the time, but I just don't feel comfortable filming in public. So I wanted to do an update like as soon as I got home that day, and then it was just a lot going on. I think it was the day before I had to do my resit for my apprenticeship, so I just had a lot of on my mind, so I just didn't. But the kiss. So this has confirmed to me that Rip is definitely the love interest, the actual love interest of this series, and I'm very, very excited to see that his and Oren's relationship develop. It did feel like it was a little bit out of the blue, but I do think from the moment that they met, there was always that chemistry there. But obviously they are both fae, so I'm very much of the feeling that maybe like it's a little bit too convenient, like the way that they're sort of slotted together. They're the only two known fae in Aurea. It's almost like they are fated, they're meant to be, and although I do kind of like the idea of that, like, you know, soulmates, stuff like that, it does all feel a little bit too convenient. And I think maybe because a lot of this book has kind of happened very quickly, like we see, like most of the book has obviously took place in the army camp, so although on page we do see Oren kind of get used to real life, get used to freedom, get used to friends. She's made friends with the Wrath, who remind me so much of the Inner Circle. There are so many similarities to ACOTAR in this series that I absolutely love. You've got Rip, who's basically Rhysand. You've got Midas, who's basically Tamlin. You've got the Wrath, which is basically the Inner Circle. You can even match I can't remember their exact names, but the two guys to like Cassian and Azrael, and then Lou is basically like Mor and Amren kind of together. I love it. I mean, it is quite similar, so maybe there is an inspiration there from Soja Mouse, but I love it. I love that series, so I love that kind of parallel that we've got and that dynamic, and I love the way that Oren is almost like Feyre, where she has slotted herself in very well with the Wrath, and she does have that banter with them. They've grown on her, she's grown on them. They're not friends, but they definitely have a friendly dynamic with each other. And then you've got Rip, and it does feel like that their relationship is a little bit too convenient. But I think it's because there isn't a lot between them, like despite the fact that she has spent a month, maybe more, with him. In fact, it's difficult to say, because it said it had been 2 months since she'd seen Midas, and obviously some of that time was spent traveling, some of that time was spent with the pirates, and then most of that time was probably spent with the army. So I'm not exactly sure how much time Oren has spent with the Fourth Kingdom army and with Rip, but obviously she slept in his tent for quite a lot of time, so they've probably had time together, but I feel like there isn't actually that many scenes between them on page. There is obviously the little fight scene between them that kind of makes, you know, it makes her confess that she's Fae, and then there is the kiss, and it was nice, the kiss. I can't wait for there to be more between them, and I feel like it's definitely going to take to book 3 for this relationship to really bloom. And I think I've heard that book 3 is where this series get really, really good, and I'm definitely really enjoying this. So my momentum has gone a little bit with it, which is not to do with the book at all. So I'm a little bit sad that I've lost that momentum, but I definitely still feel like this is going to be a 5-star read. It's just, again, it feels like a very, very long prologue, in the same way the first book felt like a prologue to the main series and what is actually kind of the main plot. Like, I feel like we still haven't got to the main meat of what the plot of this series is going to be, but I feel like most of it is actually like the story of Oren becoming who is she's supposed to be, and embracing her Fae heritage, the fact that she is Fae, and her freedom. You know, like there is a lot of symbolism with the covers of these books, particularly with the birdcage, and like the first one the cage is closed, this one the cage is now open, and I know that with the next 2 books I've got as well, like it's more Oren breaking free, and I guess it's also a way for her, with her like becoming more present in the world, because obviously in the first book she's literally still in this cage, and then she's had a taste of this freedom, and now Midas is making her go back in this cage. So it's just like, I just love all the symbolism and stuff, but I just love the story of Oren more than anything. You know, this is a fantasy romance series, and there is a significant lack of actual romance in this second book as well as was in the first book, so yeah, I feel like I'm gushing over this book and I'm really, really loving it. But there is so much to it more than just being a fantasy romance series. Like, there's just so much behind it, especially when it comes to talking about abusive relationships. And I really like the way that it's done between Midas and Auron. It's just, it feels very, very realistic despite the fantasy setting. So I'm very interested to see if, like, Auron, what Auron does in these next few pages, because at this point she has not yet gone into the cage. But this is the other thing, like, she was like crying when she was reunited with Midas, and he met her at arm's length. She says this, like, herself. She's like, she's expected him to greet her with, like, open arms, to embrace her, and he literally met her at arm's length because he, like, grabbed her arms and, like, held her at arm's length. He's been very impersonal with her. She sees the way that her decoy person who was painted gold to look like her is used and treated, and at the end of the day, it's like Auron realizes that, like, yeah, he uses her, you know? I just feel so bad for her because she's obviously had such a horrible upbringing and she's been groomed by Midas into thinking he's God's gift, and I feel so bad for Auron. It's awful. It's just so awful. There's not really much more at this point I can say about Auron and her relationship with Midas. Like, I'm just glad that she's finally coming to her senses. But I also want to talk about Queen Melina, because we have had a few chapters from Melina's perspective. And Melina is a very interesting character to me. She reminds me a lot of Cersei Lannister, and I'm loving it. So she has been trying to sway the kingdom to her cause, to support her, to see Midas as the enemy, essentially, because she wants to solidify her power and her position in Sixth Kingdom. And she's kind of got all of the nobles, court people on her side, but she needs to win the hearts of the people, and she tries to do this by having a kind of giveaway where she's giving away clothes, coin, food to the peasants, and it's clear that she doesn't actually care about these people. She doesn't care about her kingdom. She cares about the status and the power, which is very Cersei Lannister to me. Like, she just cares about the kingdom, the power, having the name, being on the throne. She does not actually care about the people who live there. And this woman points it out to her, who's like, you're just giving us this stuff, but you don't actually care. Where were you when Midas didn't help us? And she's like, Midas didn't let me, you know, like, it was all Midas's fault. And they're like, no, we don't buy it. Where were you, you know? And I really respect this random non-named character for that. And so Melina storms off. She's very pissed. And she meets this random dude who's, like, metallic. And he has the power to show people their, like, heart's desire. And he, like, manifests this map for her, which I'm guessing is the map at the front of the books, because Melina says that this map's wrong. Like, there is Seventh Kingdom on here. Seventh Kingdom was destroyed. What is this, you know? And he's like, no, this is real. This dude, I don't know who, I can't even remember what his name was. He's probably a very, very minor character. It's very interesting that she's given this map. It has Seventh Kingdom on it. And everybody thinks that Seventh Kingdom was destroyed. It's talked about at the end of the first book. Seventh Kingdom was destroyed. There is no bridge to Anwin anymore. Like, it does not exist. And so it is established that, like, this is how the world is. There's only 6 kingdoms now. There is no Seventh Kingdom. It's gone. But it's on this map. And this guy says to Melina, like, she's like, Seventh Kingdom's gone. And he's like, is it though? Is it? So I feel like this is definitely going to tie in with the fact that we have 2 Fae characters in the world. Where have they come from? Because obviously they're not very old. They're 25, 30s. I think Auron is 25. And Rip is probably a little bit older than that. Again, we don't really know a lot about Fae in this world. Like, I believe Auron is 25 years old, but Rip could possibly be a bit older because obviously Fae, like, live for hundreds of years. Basically, they're both very young, so it's like if they're full Fae, they must have been born in Anwin. As we know, Auron was. Rip, obviously, too. And they have come to Auria. How are they here? So obviously something is going on with this bridge to Seventh Kingdom. Seventh Kingdom obviously still exists, so I need to know. I just need to know what's going on. But I'm very excited to finish the book, just to kind of see how it's going to be resolved. I feel like we are back at the same place as we were with Guild. Obviously, there's been a lot of character development with the first two books of the series. You know, it's kind of like, yes, we're back in the same place that we started with Oren being with Midas, being in a cage, but she's a very different person to who she was at the start of Guild. She's had that character development to see the world, to feel freedom, to have people tell her how it is and say to her, Midas does not treat you well, honey. They have had the hey girly conversation with her. She's like, oh, okay, so we're in the same place, but she's obviously a very different person. So that's obviously going to be very, very important to what's going to happen in Gleam. So I just want to read Gleam so soon so that I can see what is going on. I need to know. I need to see some relationship stuff going on between her and Rip, because I just need to see it. I need to know. I need that. But yeah, it's going to be a little while till I get to Gleam, because it's on my May June TBR, but I need to finish my April book club books before I can even start that. And also I don't want to read it too soon, because as you guys know, I'm going to have to wait for the last book. It must be so painful for anybody who's already read the series, because it's such a long wait. Obviously, like, it's even longer for them because they would have read Glow way before me, and they still have to wait for Gold. I'm just like, oh, at least it's not even like a year for me to wait. But yeah, I'm just very, very excited. I'm just really loving this series. I'm so sorry, this has been such a long update. This is literally going to be me doing a really quick little update before I went in the shower and then finish the book. But there is just so many nuances with this that I'm just really invested in it. And I think it's very telling that I have so much to say about this, and like how much I'm actually remembering about the plot. Whereas if I, like, my biggest comparison I can have is with the Throne of Glass series, because that's the only other series I've done so far where I've like vlogged, and there are so many things about that series that I've forgotten while I was doing the vlog, while I was reading it, and the fact that I remember so much about this book and the first book, and it's just because I'm really, really enjoying them and I'm very invested in them, and I think they're very well written. And yeah. Okay, I'm actually going to stop this update now, and I'm going to go and have a shower. I'm going to get myself all cozy. I've just remembered I bought myself some crisps from the Co-op to have as a snack tonight, and I'm probably not going to have them now because it's like bedtime. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm going to go get a shower, get all cozy. I'm going to finish my book, and then I might do like what I did with the first one and do kind of like little clips as things are revealed, if there's anything like that happens. If I don't, I'm gonna wrap up the vlog, I think, tomorrow. Final thoughts, all that jazz. So this is actually me ending the clip now, and I will see you guys when I have some more things to say. I really should have finished the chapter I was in the middle of before I did that update, because there has been a major development. So Midas was putting Oren back in that cage. Obviously she's very distressed. She has accidentally turned her stand-in to solid gold, the same way she did for the pirate captain, but she's not dipping in to Midas's power at all. She is the one with the golden touch. What the fuck? It would make sense because she's like fae. But obviously, so this is the line that's confirmed it for me. Midas says, "You've probably exhausted your power with this little tantrum. It's a shame because I have a list of things I need you to make gold for me. But no matter, I can wait a bit, and in the meantime you can regain your strength." And then the chapter ends with him saying, "I don't need your forgiveness, precious," which is something I hate him calling her. "I just need your power." She's the one. Sorry, that was my cat sneezing. She's the one. She's the one with the power. I am surprised, like, that Oren's the one with the power, but this is a twist, like, this is just a great twist. This is such a really, like, great take on the King Midas story. So yeah, she's not gold touched. She's gold probably just because she's gold, because that's her power. It's probably got nothing to do with Midas making her gold at all. I need to keep reading. I just need to keep reading. Rip is Ravenger. What the fuck? I suspected they were the same person. I suspected. I never said it though, but I suspected. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. What the fuck? Okay guys, so I did in fact finish Glint last night. It was a little bit of a struggle because I was absolutely exhausted from doing a full week of work. I haven't done 5 days in a row at work since I started my apprenticeship. In fact, I think it's probably since before I started my apprenticeship over 1.5 years ago. So that was my first full week, 5 days in a row of work, and it was a lot. But I did manage to finish the last like 40 odd pages, and I tried to give little live updates as things were being revealed. So I'm trying to remember what exactly happened, what I said to you guys. I think the main thing is that King Ravenger is Rip, which I did kind of suspect. I never said it in any of my updates, I think, but I did, in the back of my mind I was thinking it would be very convenient but also too much of a coincidence if Rip was actually Ravenger. And so I was thinking, well, it must be too obvious surely, but no, they're the same person. And after I finished the book I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, because there has been 2 very distinct scenes where Auron saw both Rip and Ravenger in the same place. It was when they were approaching the castle and she said she could see the silhouette of Rip with the other members of like the Wrath, and Ravenger in his all spooky self was walking towards the castle. And then the second time is the chapter from Midas's perspective, where the Wrath walk in and he describes the 4 of them. So he says he hears soft footsteps, which I'm guessing was Lou. Says there's an average built guy, a really big guy, which must be Judd and Osric, and then a guy with like spikes. So that's obviously Rip. But then Ravenger walks in afterwards. So I'm wondering if Rip has some sort of power where he can kind of project or duplicate himself, or if he has a body double as well, so that he can be King Ravenger but also be like Commander Rip. And it's just given me so many Akatar vibes with the Inner Circle and with Rhysand, where how Rhysand kind of has 2 personas, where he's his normal self, which I'm guessing for me in comparison to this book would be like Rip, but then he's also got his Night Court version that he portrays to other people, which would kind of be the front he puts on as King Ravenger. I just think it's so interesting, and the way Raven Kennedy described how his power of like decomposing things, I don't really know how to describe his actual power, was like shrunk back, because when he is Ravager he has green eyes and it kind of all shrinks back into his eyes and his eyes go like fully black, so it's kind of all this power like sinking into him, and I thought it was very cool. And then obviously like the very last thing is he goes to see Auron after she's like tried to break out, where Midas has like locked her in. There were guards outside her door. He does kill the guards and she's like, oh, but then he kind of has this conversation with her and she's absolutely terrified because she's like, what's Ravager going to do to me? And then he reveals to her that he's actually Rip and his real name is Slade, which I just think is really funny because of the band Slade. Slade is from Wolverhampton, which is where I'm from, so I just think of the band, if I'm being quite honest. But I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very interesting. I'm a little bit shocked. I really want to pick up Gleam as soon as possible because I just need to know what's going to happen next. I'm guessing that Slade, I think I'm going to still keep calling him Rip, to be honest. Rip is going to take Auron back to Fourth Kingdom, and there's, I don't know, I really don't know what's going to happen. He clearly does not give a shit about Midas and what Midas's planning to do. I absolutely hate Midas so much. He reminds me so much of Tamlin with the way he behaves, the way that he's treated Oren, the way he says that this is all to keep her safe, but also obviously we've had that reveal that Oren is the one with the gold touch powers. He was saying to her like he locks her up to keep others safe from her, and like it's the gaslighting, man. Oh my god. And then there was a little reveal with Oren's power where she can only use her power during the time the sun is up. So I thought it was very interesting how her power is linked to the sun, and she said that she knew that night had fallen because her power had immediately like dissipated for the night. So I thought it was very interesting as well. And like gold was like dripping from her hand the entire time she was trying to like escape. She turned this door to gold. I need to know what's going to happen next. This again does feel a bit like it was still a bit of a prologue to what the actual meat of the series is going to be, but I feel like now we're all kind of on the same page. Like we know more about Oren, we know who Ravager actually is, and we know Midas's like true nature. I feel like when I get to Gleam, like that's really when the series is going to shine, and I'm so excited for it. I did mean to do my core pile rating for this book before I did this little wrap-up clip, but I just completely forgot. But I definitely think it's going to be another 5 stars. I don't see this series ever falling below a 5-star for me now. I absolutely love this. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than Guild. I think I've probably enjoyed them about on the same level. It's mainly because these first 2 books do feel like a prologue to what is actually going to happen, but there was obviously a lot of reveal and a lot of character development for this, and although I do feel like that it is kind of an introduction to what is actually going to be the main plot of the series, it's very important, and the first book was very important to get our characters to establish like who they are and their motivations, but also to see their true nature, and for Oren to also have that character development where she kind of came to her senses and realised like Midas does not treat her well, and she would never have realised that on her own if she hadn't met Rith. I'm also really interested to see more about the Wrath. I absolutely love that little group of characters, and I'm guessing that they really know the true nature of Rith, the fact that he's the king. Like I'm guessing that they all know, but I think that probably the other people in the army don't quite know that they probably think they are 2 different people, but I'm guessing the Wrath know that. I'm absolutely loving this. It's so similar to the ACOTAR series but in a different way, and I'm really loving that aspect of it. As you guys know, that's like one of my favourite series, so it's the similarities just make me really happy. I'm like, oh yes, I see that little nod. And then again with Queen Melina, she reminds me a lot of Cersei, who is one of my favourite characters from Game of Thrones. So I'm just really excited to see what's going to happen in Gleam. I'm probably going to read it in May because it is on my May-June TBR, so I'm probably going to read it in May because I just want to get through it as soon as I can. But yeah, I'm just like so anxious because I know I'm gonna have to wait for the final book, and I don't want to have to wait until the end of the year for it. And it sucks that like I've picked this series up now, but at the same time like I'm absolutely loving it. It's literally it is a new favourite. It is a new favourite. I'm already thinking like I want to get a tattoo to represent the series, and I think maybe some sort of goldfinch, I don't know, but I'm just absolutely loving this. It's so good. I can't believe how much I've loved it. Like I was a little bit nervous because well, what if I don't love it as much as I think I'm going to? But I just need to learn to like trust my instincts because I love this book. I love this series. So yeah, it was so good. So that is it for this vlog, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please do remember to give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and feelings about Glint. Please again remember to keep things as spoiler free as you can, just in case anybody has stumbled onto the video and hasn't read the book. I don't want people to accidentally be spoiled if I can help it. But yeah, please let me know your thoughts and feelings on Glint. Tell me if you think I'm going to love Gleam even more, because I think I'm going to. But let me know if you also think that's going to happen. If you haven't already and you'd like to, please do remember to subscribe. I post a new video every single week. And that is it from me today, guys. Bye!